I don't have a funny bit to start.
No,
this,
we
by the
don't
way.
need a funny bit to start it.
No, we don't.
How do you want to start it though?
Just go. Welcome to episode play, which is 5, 6.
5.
This is 5.
Six.
No,
Oh,
it's
6.
no, it's 6. No, it's 6. This is 6. All right, I'll just do welcome to episode 6 of the score. Do you know the score? But like I do every time, the same thing I do every time.
You've done it now.
You suck. Welcome to episode 6 of Do You Know the Score? I'm Jordan.
And I'm Gavin.
And yeah, we're back for the 6th episode. Thank you to everyone, by the way, who has watched our shorts. We're trying to work, on the YouTube, not our actual shorts, and watch this on YouTube and all that sort of stuff. Thank you for subscribing. If it's something you like, let people know. That's cool. But yeah, we're back once again to talk because the wonderful Premier League has returned after a disgusting couple of weeks off, or a week and a half off for dirty internationals, which are, there's no point to have them. Awful football, it's boring time, unless it's World Cup. There's no point. But anyway, we're back with the good stuff, the real stuff.
Actual football.
Actual football from the Premier League. Good weekend. There is one game that we can't talk about because it's in the future, which is going to be the Forest versus Burnley. A little side note on that: I entered a Cadbury's competition where if either Burnley or Nottingham Forest score in the 38th minute of the game tonight, I win a experience to go to see a football team live. And it was Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Leeds, Manchester United, and someone else. I can't remember who. And I think I picked Liverpool.
I was going to say, some of those teams seem fun to go watch, others not so much. And I mean, that type of 38th minute? You said
38th minute.
Nailed on. It's a guarantee that that's going to happen.
One person just needs to score from either team in that. So, thoughts and prayers. Shout them out. Let's hope so I can have a nice little weekend away in Liverpool. So that'd be good fun.
Absolutely.
How are you? How was the weekend for you?
It was good. It was great to actually have the football back, like you say. It's been a break, and to actually see all the teams back in action, fantastic. And I think it was a really exciting week overall. Not for all teams, of course. It never will be. It never will be. So
nope.
Yeah. How was it for Man City? How did Man City get on?
Oh, it was awkward, and then it was great. It started off with West Ham basically cancelling us out. It was a very, very tough start of the game. Something I've been saying a lot is that people don't come at us very often. West Ham had different ideas. They listened to the podcast. They listened to me and went, "That handsome man's got a very good point." And they just basically were fairly ruthless. They closed down very well. Jeremy Doku got blamed for the goal, which I thought was a bit harsh because, to be fair, after he lost possession, Jared Bowen's ball over to James Ward-Prowse, he had so much more work to do after he got, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he took it and then Bowen just had like free reign. He still had like 2 or 3 defenders to get through and round. Wonderful cross, wonderful finish, deserved goal by West Ham. Can't fault it at all. But then went in at half time, got whatever happened in whatever happens in the dressing room happened, and they came out all guns blazing. Jeremy Doku showing class, exactly why we bought him with his equalizer. I thought it was a phenomenal goal, the kind of thing that I always wanted or expected Raheem Sterling to have done for us. Just take everyone on and take a shot, go for it.
Sure.
Beautiful placement in the shot, showed pace, showed power, showed technique. Wonderful, can't fault it. Second goal, a little bit fortunate. Chip ball over the top. Falls into the path, bounces around a little bit, falls into the path of Bernardo Silva, who slots it away, and and to be fair, Haaland could have had his first goal because he was coming in on off the far post and
Right.
let it go for his teammate because that's the kind of man that we sign. It's the kind of people that we have.
I think it might be more he's got enough goals and he
Yeah.
understands this.
Well, he then went ahead and did another one. So it ended up 3-1. At the end, felt more comfortable than it was. Probably scoreline again, showing that the games are more comfortable than they actually are. But it's ticking, man. It's ticking. 5 wins out of 5. It's the best start we've had in a long, long time. For the rest of you, I hope, I mean, if it carries on like this, then, it's just going to be a walk in the park. But Manchester City have a dip in form all the time. It always happens every season, and normally we get it out of the way, so that the next 3 quarters of the season are actually all right. But in this particular situation, God, don't know. But at the moment, I'm loving the balance. I'm loving the team. I like the way that we play. I've got very few gripes with it, really. I mean, even with the players that we've lost and what we've brought in, I've said it before, they just seem to have slotted in perfectly. Recruitment's been spot on. So, yeah, great 3 points. Difficult game, West Ham always are.
They're doing well. They're quite high themselves.
They are indeed, and they're still running the high from winning their conference, the European Conference League, and they're not really showing a lot of signs after losing Declan Rice that the world's ending. It's not been that detrimental to them. He's probably missed. Do you know what I mean? They've had to adapt and stuff, but the way that they've adapted, they're not really missing him. It's not like you're taking a massive key part clearly of what West Ham were about, even though he was a standout player. You'd obviously rather him be there.
Sure.
But it's not the end of the world that he's not.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a couple of times about these teams that historically have just kind of bumped the Premier League up. They're actually showing up and they're playing. And I think West Ham are definitely one of those where it's not necessarily a player or two like we've seen in the past with like Everton, for example, when they've had a great player and then they've lost them and then they don't recover because the rest of the team isn't quite there. Whereas now we've got these teams. Brighton's another one where the player's been taken away and they're still riding high. Southampton, when we raided them with loads of players, they weren't the same Southampton afterwards. Whereas it, like you pointed out, now West Ham, even losing Declan Rice, they're still good. And I think that comes down to good recruiting and good coaching to keep the spine of the team the same. That even if you lose a player, you bring a player in, like teams like City, like you're doing, where you've lost those players, you've brought the players in, and they're slotting in.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things that Pep's always done with his team is that if you're not happy or you don't want to be here or you fancy something else, by all means go.
Sure.
No hard feelings. We'll catch you later. And it's really good. I mean, you're talking about teams then, Brighton, for example, being sort of team that are generating star after star, player after player that are getting poached constantly by all the big clubs, right? But then they've always got someone else in the pocket to come out afterwards, and that's telling of how well run that club is. Even when they lose their manager, when they lost Potter, they brought in someone else. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, sorry, but they bring him in, and business as usual carries on, and it's a very important thing to give those teams a lot of props, because one of the things that we talked about last time with the one horse race nonsense is that when you've got teams that can't compete with City financially and can't compete with City with what they can do, or even, as I pointed out last week as well, all these teams that have money, they suddenly find 300, 400 million down the couch suddenly to be able to spend like City have been doing.
Sure.
You've got to create. Some teams have to create a situation where they're generating and creating, talent from cheap or from the academies or whatever, and then build them up into stars.
Sure.
and the work that's going on over at that team is just it's phenomenal, and it's a pleasure to watch them as well. Like, it's good football too. It's not just we're getting they're a team that are there or thereabouts. They're a team that are producing good football, as their result on the weekend showed.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to go to? Should we talk about Liverpool?
Let's do Liverpool, then we'll go on to the other stuff.
Okay.
I think let's do it that way. So we had a tough game against Wolves. Wolves have shown up against a few teams so far this season, and they started the game the same way. I think Pablo Neto had a fantastic start to the game. The way he attacked us, we had difficulty containing him, and within 7 minutes they'd scored. It took us a long while to try and get back in the game. I thought we did okay, but once Wolves scored and they were kind of on top of us, we had a tough time breaking them down. They're a very well organized team, played very compact, guys behind the ball all the time. So to try and break that down is always difficult, and it took a little something to get that done. I thought after the goal, we defended better and stopped those opportunities. Joel Matip, still, I got question marks over him. I'm not sure. I don't know. It wasn't quite as I'd want it to be as the leader, considering that his number 2 for that match was Konza, the young boy who did well. He did really well. I think he's going to be really, really good. He's not good yet, but he will be good. So when you've got someone with youthful experience, not experience, he's youthful, he doesn't have that much experience, you want to balance that with experience. And I don't think Matip brought that as he really should have done for that game. Gomez did okay on the right, but only okay. So I think, considering those changes we made or had to make, because Van Dijk can't keep his mouth shut, I think we coped okay. I'm still bitter about what Van Dijk did, by the way. I don't know if you can tell.
I can tell.
Right hole. So then
how long did he out for?
That was his last game now. So he got his
so he'll
one
be
match
back,
ban, then a further one. So he'll be back for the next one. Thankfully.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we needed to do something, and at halftime, that something that happened where we brought on Diaz, who changed the pace of the game. Harvey Elliott also, when he came on, changed the pace of the game. It's great to have those players off the bench to be able to do that. I thought Darwin as well off the bench, great. So when you've got players like that can come off, that's a great asset to have. So we came back and we scored, and then we scored, and then we scored, and it became a comfortable scoreline in the end. I honestly believe that was down to Diaz coming on and changing the pace. There's some really good goals and a comfortable win in the end, even though Wolves tried their very best to contain us, to stay compact. We still managed to break them apart, pull them apart, and get some space and find those goals. We're maybe a bit fortunate with the last goal, with the own goal. It would look like it was going wide, then it got pulled in and came in off the post. So I thought the celebrations from Harvey Elliott was a bit overkill myself. Yeah, celebrate like Robertson did with his amazing goal, that run through the field and to score. That was great. And be as energetic with your celebrations as that. But I found that I don't know if you've seen it, but what Elliott did, it was more like he's only a couple of years away from being a ball boy, that type of celebration. He jumped over the first barrier, he ran it, he jumped over the second barrier, and he's jumping into the crowd as if we'd just won the Champions League. We'd scored a third goal against Wolves. You've got to put it into perspective as well. This is the 5th game of the season in the Premier League. Keep calm. That could have quite easily been a yellow card, and you don't know what danger that could put us into in the future. There's a few players like Harvey Elliott with that, and like Van Dijk with his mouth, that they're putting us in unnecessary danger with their actions. These unforced errors. I know people have referred to us, the team, as mentality monsters, and we're making a habit at the moment of going behind and then still winning. So there's that mentality in it, but we're then letting ourselves down with these silly moments that I'd like
at the end of it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that eradicated. And I think with the right team to do that, I don't think it's going to get out of hand. It's just a little bit of a worry at the moment.
No. Well, I said to you last season, we were on the phone chatting about Darwin Núñez after the headbutt. I can't remember who you were playing.
No, I can't remember.
But there was a player in that team that was just on him like for until he lashed out. And I said to you that like the question's going to be: is this going to be his mentality? Is this who he is, or or is it just a one-off? Or if it is his mentality, is he going to get shot down? How is he going to get stopped? And I thought, and I still think that it's the best environment and probably one of the better teams in the league to qualm that kind of thing, especially with the leaders that you had in the locker room then.
Yeah.
For you personally, though, a lot of those leaders that I've just met, I was thinking about at the time, aren't there anymore. They're all retired, gone to different clubs, that sort of thing. So you are quite a young team now. I mean, really, you've only got like, Salah's the probably the eldest now.
Yeah, Van Dijk's pretty close, and Alisson maybe as well.
Yeah, whereas last year you had a lot, like, even though it was in a way a detriment to you because a lot of players were slower and a lot of players, you know, they just one more year on, you know.
Yeah.
But they had the you were saying the experience thing that Matip didn't show the young kid that you had in centre back. Do you think that that's potentially missing at the minute from you? Could that be a reason why these players are making these kind of like unforced errors?
Maybe. I think it might be more of a youthful exuberance rather than a lack of leadership. The younger players are so excited to be with Liverpool, and also now we're doing well. I think that Van Dijk and Robertson need to play a bigger part in cool heads. You know, and Van Dijk doing what he did isn't great. I think, having said that, what he did on the field wasn't great. Obviously, I watch a lot of Liverpool and I see a lot of the footage of everything. Every game, the twice now that Van Dijk's not been on the field playing, he's been at the match, which you'd expect, but not just in the stands. He's in the changing room, in the hallway. As the players come off at the end, he's giving them the congratulations and well done, and he's there supporting them.
Yeah.
But I think he's still a big leadership part. He just showed weakness in that moment. I've not seen that much from him. I just don't want to see any more of it. We need him on the field. What he showed off the field is great. Imagine if Andy Robertson wouldn't be able to play him in that game as well. We've just got a bunch of kids then playing.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So it's a bit of both, probably. Let's put it that way. There's the youthful exuberance that's coming out here, but also we need to make sure there is that leadership. We have it all over the park. You know, Alisson's not a quiet player. He'll tell you what to do. Van Dijk's presence all over the place. His aura is everywhere. Andy Robertson gets all over the field, and Salah's great. So I don't think we're necessarily missing leadership. It's just different leadership now.
Sure. Let's move on. I want to move on to Villa Palace a minute before we go on to certain teams. Villa Palace, Spurs. There's a bit of similarities going on with a lot of games now in the Prem. Last week there was a few as well, and it's leaving it late and having this added extra time is really making the end of games even spicier. Now, I know at the time people were kicking off a little bit about how much football they're going to have to play and so forth. They're still human beings, all of how much money they make and how much, you know, training and all that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of unfair just to go, oh, they're professionals, they should do it. Like they're still human beings at the end of the day and they can still break down. But in that particular game, right? So the equalizer was scored in the 87th minute. And have you seen John Duran, he's called? Did you see his goal?
I did, yeah.
Whoa, what a beautiful volley. Just sick volley. And I was just like, Palace and Villa, from what I saw, from the extended highlights that I saw on TV, it looked kind of drab until the end. It's the same with Spurs. When Spurs played their game against sorry, against Sheffield United, again, it was a bit like nothing. And then suddenly in the last 10 minutes, everyone's like, goals, 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 goals. And it's making things in the Prem a lot more exciting and interesting for sure. But again, you've got like a team like Villa, who I said were going to be
Yeah.
a bit more of an upset team, right? Then they sort of showed me up a little bit, starting again to tick like a team that are looking good. Like Douglas Luiz looked really good with in the penalty, like a lot of poise to slot that in 98th minute.
Sure.
That takes a lot of guts and stuff. Leon Bailey, who's a player I know from FIFA because he was dead and he got a load of dead good cards, so he must have been good in the old Bundesliga. But he's looking like the player that they bought as well. Again, Villa is showing signs of being like a team that are going to definitely disrupt and cause issues if they can keep doing things like this against those teams. Because when they're playing, when they play the Palaces and the Wolves and so forth of the world, it's going to be a bit more of an even battle in it. So there's going to be a bit more of this kind of like, we can do this. Whereas when they play up against one of the top teams in the league, they're probably going to be a bit more like conservative and reserved about things. But yeah, that was my thing on it. Like that and the other game that I thought was incredibly interesting, even though it was a 0-0 draw, was Chelsea's game.
Yeah.
Because even though it was 0-0, Chelsea and Bournemouth went back and forth. It was a great game. The result was dull. But the game was excellent. Did you get to see any of that?
I watched bits of it, and I've obviously watched the highlights. But yeah, I agree. You've got two teams there that seemed very evenly matched, even though financially they shouldn't be. The money that's been spent on Chelsea should put them like miles ahead. Yet they can't seem to separate themselves from a team like Bournemouth.
Sure.
Is that them being bad, or is it Bournemouth being particularly good at the time? Only time will tell when it all evens itself out. But Chelsea are disappointing so far this season.
Wise man said though that Poch ain't all that. So, but I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying when you watch, because you look at that nucleus of talent that they've got, and I honestly believe that most managers in the Premier League who are currently got teams sitting in the top 6 will probably have done more with them in the period of time that Poch has had with them. They probably would have done better, or at least had something of an identity going forward. I mean, like Chelsea, unfortunately, have Sterling up top, who, like I've said millions of times privately, I don't know if I've said it on this particular podcast, but he looks like he's defusing a bomb whenever he has to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that still is happening now. That the striker Jackson doesn't look like a confident finished article.
That's right.
You know, Cole Palmer coming in again, he looks lost. He doesn't look like the same player that left City a few weeks ago. You know, they've got centre backs and right fullbacks they've been there for donkeys, and also in some cases been in football for donkeys years. It's just it's a mess, but that mess did actually seem to have it created an exciting game of football, at least. So you can't, you know, in some respects, you can't say you're not at least entertained.
Yeah, but I think when you have so many talented football players on the field, you're gonna have sparks of magic and interest. But if they're not gelling as a team, you come up against a fairly organized team, and it's not going to come off all the way. You're going to come up against these brick walls, and that's what's happening with Chelsea. They're just not a solid gelling unit. And how long does it take for a manager to do that? There are lesser managers in the Premier League right now that are doing it with lesser teams. And they're getting these things.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about with Brighton, we're losing players. They still look good. I thought Wolves did really, really well the way that they played. They play more as a unit and as a team than I see with Chelsea. Chelsea are just a bunch of individuals still.
Yeah. Absolutely. Last two games that we're going to talk about. First one, don't need to talk much about it, but it was Arsenal and Everton. I mean, Everton, bless them. they look done already. They already look defeated, bless them. Like I called them for staying up in the Prem, but I'm starting to regret that idea at the minute because they just look like they've got nothing. Like it really feels like they have nothing.
That's only going forward, though, right?
Yeah, but
Let's
that's somewhat important though because they are breakdownable by teams that they need to fight with. You know,
yeah.
you can't win on just drawing 0-0 every game. You can't, so you can't survive. Sorry, even not
No,
win.
I know,
You
but
can't survive just by
it's
doing
a
that.
solid basis if because there's issues. I'm just looking at the Premier League table now, live, and this is before the Forest game tonight. These are the teams that have conceded more goals than Everton so
Okay.
far. From the top going down, you've got Villa, Fulham, United, Wolves, Burnley, Luton, all conceded more goals than Everton. Where
Right.
Everton fall down is that they have only scored as many goals as Luton in total.
Yeah.
And it's not just put a striker in the front. I don't know if you saw any stats, but Everton are ranked 20th right now in chances created. I think they've got a -5 XG, whatever that means. I don't exactly know how that works. They
Expect the goals, isn't it?
They owe expected goals. I don't know. Anyway. But they're ranked 20th in that, and how many touches and how many shots on, even not just on target shots. They're not creating passes in that final third to be able to create chances. So you can put like Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, and if he's not getting the delivery he needs, or the team aren't pushing up through midfield as needed. By the time it then gets there, the striker's overstretched, and we're not going to. An organized team is going to block them. But I don't think Arsenal played particularly badly, but they only scored one goal. It took them a long time to get to that point. So although 5 games in, it looks dicey for Everton, I don't feel that's a true picture. I feel like in the next couple of weeks, I hope we're going to see a better midfield, which will then give the forwards more to sit on and score those goals. Because defensively, they're doing, they'd be in the middle of the table if it just went on goals against. So
yeah, I just don't know. I just don't see. I watched that whole Arsenal game and I saw so little. Like maybe I expect more or want more out of teams. Maybe this kind of like the way that Dyche likes to set up teams just isn't for me. But like just me watching it as a spectator, just looking at it, I was like, you're allowing. You're almost allowing Arsenal to impose their will on you.
Sure.
Whilst at the same time you've got nothing going forward. So I just don't see how you solve that particular Rubik's Cube. But that's also why I'm talking to you on a microphone over Skype rather than some sort of football manager.
I think that could be Dyche setting it up, knowing that. I mean, what with the firepower or lack of firepower that Everton have, what are they actually going to do against the quality Arsenal side? You got to contain and then create opportunities when you can. And if you're not good at creating those opportunities, you're probably not going to get much out of that particular game. I think Everton need to be judged when they're playing teams from 10 downwards. And are they then going to still be able to be that defensively solid? But now are they going to be able to break them down and snatch a 1-0? Or, if it's 1-1 to the end, snatch that 2-1. Other teams are doing it. I think by the time we get to November, December, I think we'll have a clearer picture of what Dyche is able to do with that squad.
Fair enough. Final thing to talk about. And I'm introducing a new segment. Which is called we're not talking about that again. I am bored of the Manchester United narrative. I'm bored of talking about what's wrong there because it's the same stuff and it's been the same stuff for seasons now and it's dull. What are we going to say that's any different to what anyone else is going to say? I mean, it's a toothless Empty team. They've got terrible. Their midfield is done. Like Casemiro is done.
Yeah.
No one was tracking back. No one was putting an effort in. I mean, the only saving grace from that game that I saw was this Hannibal kid that scored like an absolute worldie for him. But other than that, every single thing about them was dismal, utterly dismal. Like it's just I can't think of another word really than and I'm sick of hearing it's this off the field or it's that off the field or it's this going on or that going on. At the end of the day, you're supposed to be better now. I've been hearing that Ten Hag's supposed to be the manager of managers. He's the person that's taking them to the promised land. He's also he's got his team now, right? There's hardly any. I mean, I know there's people still there that he didn't buy and whatnot, but they're on the bench. They're not featuring. This team that you're seeing now, this is the Ten Hag team. Yep. He loves the Glazers. He's publicly supported the Glazers, so he doesn't have a problem with that infrastructure behind the scenes. So this entire thing, in his opinion, for me looking on the outside in, Ten Hag wants and likes this situation, and it doesn't work. And I am bored of hearing the same nonsense all the time about it. What's wrong is this, and this. It's all of it. And like I said, is dull. So it goes into room 101. It is now Voldemort in this podcast until Manchester United turn things around, right? So if next week they get humiliated by a team, and if the week after they get humiliated by a team, etc., we're not talking about them. If they manage to do an impressive victory, we'll have a chat and go, do you think this is the turning point? And we'll probably go no. But I'm bored of it. I mean, but this is also none of this is taking. The other thing as well is a lot of these conversations take away from the fact that Brighton were brilliant. Yes. As much as Manchester United weren't good, Brighton were brilliant, and all the narrative and all the chat on your YouTube channels and on your radio stations and on your Sky Sports and all that kind of stuff. It's just about how poor Manchester United are, and I'm bored of that. Right? Could it just be that Manchester United are as good as they can be at the minute, and other teams are smoking them?
Yeah, because you put that Man United team as it played, the way it played this weekend against a lesser team, a team from the conference or something, they're going to win. They'll win. And that's that. Then they're not going to do well against teams that are organized. So I think you're definitely on something there about this is the level of that particular combination of players, coaches, and staff. And I agree, it is getting boring, and it's unfair that it's taken away from Brighton, who for the last couple of seasons have done really well. That's why they're in Europe this season. That's why they're in fifth, not just because of the one game against United. They're a good team, and they should be recognized. The turnover of players, the cost of the players that were on that field against United shows not just how woeful United were to not be able to beat that. That just shows how the genius of Brighton to assemble players that can play together, like we're talking about just a minute ago about Chelsea. Brighton are doing it the right way. They've got a team of players that play together and work together. United don't have that. As you mentioned, I know room 101, we're not going to talk about it, but let's have a little bit of a rant. One last one. Let's stick the knife in. As we all saw the tracking back, it is unacceptable to have players at that level to be that lazy. Who was it? Was it Rashford? I saw some video of, and I think it was a TikTok video or it was some social media, and this guy was reacting to it, saying, "Go on, run," and he doesn't. Well, run to this one, and he doesn't, and he just shows him for like 30 seconds losing the ball and just trotting around rather than closing down, closing the angle, going to the ball, standing the player up. He just doesn't. He loses the ball. And, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
and he's not.
Christian Eriksen was guilty of it as well. Christian Eriksen was guilty of it.
Yeah.
So was Casemiro.
Yeah.
Except only that Hannibal kid. He was the only one that I saw in that entire game who put it in, because the second that goal was disallowed, the one that where the ball went over the line and
clearly over the line, well over the line.
And Højlund, yeah, all you bloody conspiracy theorists out there that I've seen you online. You know you are. But yeah, he even after that, like it just seemed to dip the mood of the team. Like almost like I don't know. I'm not saying it did, but it felt like it did looking at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just kind of done because like there's only so much time, only so many times that people can blame ownership. It's only so many times that people can complain about all that sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, Ferguson had owners, and they just did what he wanted. Now that you're in this situation, that this particular version of Manchester United, they want that you're on board with what the setup is. You know what that is coming in.
Yeah.
So
just quickly take the incidents with not tracking back, just to use that as an example with Rashford. Rashford loses the ball. He's then got a decision to make. Do I switch on and track back immediately? Do I transition to defense immediately? Are these supporters that are talking about the Glazers and all these turmoil with this player and that player and this one getting arrested and this one doing that? Are we honestly saying that at that moment in time, Rashford goes, well, I mean, there's that stuff with Anthony at the moment. I best not run back. The Glazers took some more money out of the account. Best not run back.
Well, one of the supporters groups is organising a walkout in the 78th minute, so I best not run.
Maybe he was considering whether to join the walkout. He might be better used to the club.
Maybe
go for a walkout.
So, at end of this, like I said, now I'm done with Manchester United. Bored of it. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about them when we play them, and we'll talk about them when you lot play them. That's fine. But now they're Voldemort for the time being because it's a dead horse that we're flogging at the minute.
I'll ask you one question finally on this that we'll then bring up without talking about them. And I want to bring up a question and a chat. Which one? And then we'll keep coming back to it. Who's going to get sacked first, Ten Hag or Pochettino?
Ooh, I honestly think it'll be Pochettino.
I think so as well. Who should be sacked first?
Ten Hag.
Correct.
I think Pochettino gets sacked first because he's the manager of a club full of maniacs who just do that after a couple of months anyway. Like that's just standard fare for that club. That's just how Chelsea roll. But I don't think that United with Ten Hag and the setup that they're doing at the minute, I don't think he should last because this is, like I said, they won the Carabao Cup last year. They finished top 4. That's good. That's good. Well done. That is a build. You're not building on it. You've come into this season with 5 games in and you're 13th.
Yeah.
You've won 2 games out of 5. You've lost 3.
Yeah.
Your goal difference, is -4.
Yeah. They've conceded more goals than Everton,
who I just said were not going to survive. So
that's what I'm saying, right?
Maths.
No, but that's what I'm saying about Everton. Let's consider that as well. And
to be fair, you got 4th, and you got top 4, and you won the Carabao Cup with the same owners in place, with the same management in place, and everything was exactly the same. So you've got to start thinking about it's more than this. It can be both. Like I was saying to you the other day about the other week about the colossal job it is to be part of Manchester United because of how big it is and the expectations too big, right? It can be, like I said, all of those things. It's a massive problem all round, but at the end of the day, though, professional players on the pitch need to do their job, and they're not doing their job. And I think too many football fans of that club are picking every possible thing, because don't get me wrong, I think that the way that the Glazers run the club is terrible. That stadium looks horrendous at the minute. They are taking money out. They are spending money. A lot of that money that they're spending, though, is what the club naturally generates, being a New York Stock Exchange massive international club. That is, I completely understand all of that, but they have still bought the resources that the managers that they've hired, that you've supported, that you've backed. Like, they've bought what they wanted. So, there has to come a point where you're saying that you need to stop blaming what's happening back, behind the scenes and in the office rooms, and start worrying about what happens at Carrington and what happens on the pitch during match days. Because at the end of the day, that's the part of it that is failing massively.
Yeah, that's what's leading to, and again, I'm going to go back to Rashford as a great example of this. Rashford loses the ball. He's not thinking at that point, oh, there's so much pressure on me because of the finances on the stock market. I better not run back.
Yeah.
What's more likely to cause him to not run back is poor drills, or because they're not selecting the right drills within training sessions, the poor video sessions where they're going through old footage and saying how they're going to adjust things going forward, or just poor effort from the players in those things that are being provided well, but then are not being policed right by the coaches, who should be able to notice that players aren't paying attention. They seem to be quick enough to say that Sancho wasn't performing well on the training pitch. So, all right, let's question this. If you're not saying that Rashford you're not saying that he's not performing well, so you must be thinking that he is performing okay. So why is he not doing it on the field then? And that is nothing. The Glazers haven't got anything to do with that. The fans aren't influencing that. That is purely the coaching staff and the players, and they need to sort themselves out.
Oh, yeah, can't disagree more. Sorry, can't agree more even. Could disagree more. I think they need to do. No, I do. I like I said, they're now officially in room 101. If you want to add a toilet noise at this point, like they did on that show, that's what they did when they put it on the thing and it went into room 101. It was a toilet sound. So if you want to do that,
I'll think about it.
Producer Gavin, if you want to do that. But yeah.
Happy to move on until they start to show something that's worth talking about. Fine, but while ever it's in the shambles it is, I'm like you say, I'm fed up of saying the same things about how lazy the players are, how badly run the thing is, how badly coached the thing is, and it's not just opinion. Look at the table. Yep.
Right. Cool. What next? What would you like to speak about?
Oh, I know we said not about internationals, but I just want to say some stuff about England.
All right, go on.
So
I'm gonna just sit here and listen.
You'll join in, I promise. So we've been England we've been England supporters for a number of years. We've seen several generations of this England team. I remember, as you do as well, when David Beckham was a young player within the England team and being brought in. Passing of the guard to that golden generation. Me and you were there during the Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes debate, the endless debate on that, and how the mismanagement of certain managers led to those players not being played correctly. We've seen a manager come on board who probably could have done a good job, who after a very, very short period of time came out to the press and said, it's not for me, I'm not up to the job, I'm going to back down. And now we come on to a manager who, like a bad smell, just will not go away. He's had several generations of England players now. He's gone through a couple of generations, and I know people say, oh yeah, quarterfinal, semi-final, final, whatever. You have other international teams with lesser players that have won those championships. They don't get to the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, just to the final. They've won something, whereas we haven't, with arguably better players. And it's getting to the point now where it's really frustrating. We had Sven-Goran Eriksson, who wasn't a good choice. We threw away those tournaments by having Sven with us. Sven was the guy, by the way, who took very young Theo Walcott, who wasn't playing for Arsenal at the time. He was 17 or something and was a youth player. He played a game or two maybe as a sub. He wasn't an established player, and he got chosen to be taken to that. I think it was it the World Cup in Japan? I can't remember. And
I think it was, yeah.
What happened to Theo after that? You know, he just wasn't the type of player where you'd go, there you go, as a 17-year-old international squad, off we go. And it's a mismanagement of the pool of players you've got. club football versus international football, there's differences. You got to go with experience in international. Club football, you're there every day, apart from those small international breaks. As an international manager, you see your players for limited days, 4 or 5 times a year. So all this being said, to get to my issue with Gareth Southgate, where he doesn't choose players based on any logical reason. He gives reasons. Reasons are given on his behalf, but none of them make sense. They're not they're not continuous. They don't apply to everyone across the board. And it becomes so frustrating as an England supporter that we seem to be wasting yet another generation. Like we got I brought up Theo Walcott on purpose because he was brought into the England squad as a bit player, but before he was ready. You've got someone like Phil Foden who is ready, who should be given more minutes and isn't. And the reason that we're being fed, either through Gareth Southgate or through another party, is that Phil Foden doesn't play down the middle for his club. When you've got someone like Kevin De Bruyne, you're probably not going to be playing down the middle that much.
No.
Because that guy's there. So that's why he plays like he does. And he's an excellent utility player that plays just as well wherever you put him, wherever you need him. And Southgate won't play him but he puts Maddison out of position. And there's these things. He'll say that about Foden, but then do it with other players. Jordan Henderson, it shouldn't be in the squad. But yet he picks him. And now now he goes on about, oh yeah, but there's players that I trust, the players that I know work well for England. They play for England once or twice or 3 times every season, within their club season. Yet they play with their clubs 30, 40, 50 games. Yeah. Which one gives you a better idea of where that player is at that particular time? It's got to be the club. Sure. And if you've got Jordan Henderson doing what he's doing, he shouldn't be picked. Maguire doesn't get any games and doesn't get picked. But sorry, he gets picked. He shouldn't be picked, but he gets picked because Southgate knows he can do a job for him. Well, yeah. But what about this player? Well, I don't know about him. Well, how are you going to know? If you don't try him in the friendlies, then all right, you're never going to find out. You've locked them out on purpose. So it's highly annoying that Gareth Southgate continues to stay in that job, yet he shows that he's not. I'm at the moment, I'm just talking about picking players to take with him on the airplane. I'm not even talking about how they're playing on the field.
Yeah.
It's highly frustrating, and he seems to be a good man with words, and the FA seem to like him. He's a good politician. He wears a good suit, They must like the vest look. I don't know what it is, but the end of his contract, I think, is coming up. I would love to see someone new. My fear is we're going to give Gareth another 8 years. You've got all these.
I think that's what's going to happen as well.
Yeah, there's other managers that should be in position to do that. Ridiculous. I think Pep Guardiola was mentioned, but that would be great. I don't know. But there's so many other managers. We don't have to jump from Gareth Southgate, who, let me just point out how great of a club career he had as a manager. He didn't, he'd just been put straight in the England job. So we can't say, oh, we need someone in club football, because we've not done that before. We need someone who's a good fit for the England team, someone who knows the English players better than Southgate seems to know. I mean, he turns up to watch games. Why? Why does he watch games? Why does he turn up to games live if he's going to choose players based on how they played for him 4 or 5 months ago? Or with Maguire, even longer? Because I'm just assuming, I'm just taking the starting point now, that Maguire does actually do a good job for him for England. Own goal aside, that was just ridiculous. That's just, you couldn't write it that's going to happen to Maguire. That could have happened to anyone, but of course it had to be him. Now the booing for Maguire. Just one last thing on England: the booing. I know that Southgate came out and said that the booing of Maguire was wrong. If anyone booed Maguire, I agree. That is wrong. He hasn't done that. He's just turning up when he's asked to turn up. For
Yeah.
me, the booing was and should be for Southgate, for allowing Maguire to be put in that position, for
Yeah.
calling on Maguire and saying, here we go. I honestly feel that a majority, if not the large majority of those people in the stadium booing, the England fans, not the Scottish fans, of the English fans, were booing the fact that he was there, not booing him for being the player he is. So I think that's unfair of Southgate to not look inwards on that moment. He should have been looking at himself. Why are they booing? Not just saying, oh, they're wrong to boo.
No, don't disagree at all. I got to say though, the one thing that I saw online, which was really clever, was some guy said that if you're picking Maguire, you're not putting Foden in the centre because he doesn't play centre for England. Sorry, for Manchester City. Why on earth are you putting Maguire on at all? Because he doesn't even play for his club at all.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we could talk about this all day. However, let's move on this real quick. Let's finish off with a Ballon d'Or conversation because obviously the nominees are out. So let's have a quick chat through those because there's some good players there. I think there's a couple that could be in for this. I know obviously Messi, that's a good one. De Bruyne for you guys.
Yep. Okay. So, do you want me to go through the list?
Go on, then you go through the list.
don't.
This is obviously based on last season's performances, right? Nothing since the summer. Am I right there? It's up to like May, June time.
Correctamundo.
Mm-hmm.
And some people seem to think that Messi should be the winner of this. Where are you putting your flag?
I don't know if I've got a specific one, but I can definitely see why Messi. I mean, last season, obviously, I don't think he's done anything into Miami to warrant a Ballon d'Or nomination. But I mean, at least for country, he did really well there, leading his team to a World Cup.
I mean, but this is my beef with this, right? So this Ballon d'Or is essentially a popularity contest based on the loving from FIFA, right? So there is one undisputed winner. It's, in my opinion, it is Erling Haaland. There is no one else qualified, in my opinion, to win this because he has broken records in the toughest league in the world. He joined the Premier League, and everyone, and there were people doubting him. I didn't think he was going to do what he did, but people doubted him. Right? He broke records. He led the team to victories in 3 major competitions, including winning the Champions League for Manchester City. He has had the best football season that any footballer has ever had domestically.
Sure.
Right? No argument there. I don't think anyone can argue with me here on this. But people are saying, oh, because Messi won a World Cup, then it should go to him. And I think that's nonsense because Xavi didn't win the Ballon d'Or when he led Spain to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Who won it? Messi.
Yeah, no, you're right.
For what he achieved at Barcelona, winning La Liga, their FA Cup, whichever, I think it's a Spanish Cup or something, or Copa del Español, I'm not sure exactly, and the Champions League.
Yeah.
Why do we shift the goalpost suddenly?
No, I think thinking about it, because there's the glory of the Champions League, not Champions League, of the World Cup. To see Messi finally lifting that, and there was the Messi and the Ronaldo conversation. I think thinking about it now, that might have heightened that even further to an even larger degree. And I think what I got caught up in by I still am. It's difficult to remove myself from it. With Messi, it is probably he should be more seen as the international player of the year or World Cup player. The player of the tournament. Those type of awards. Sure. I think I think
Sure, give him.
and others are kind of mixing the two, and now there's a Ballon d'Or you've got to give it, because he wasn't the only one to win the World Cup. I mean, obviously you have Emi Martinez, who had a huge role in it.
Yeah,
no one's talking him up because of that. I mean, he's on the list because of Argentina, but I mean, I think that's where it comes from, John, because, like I said, Emi Martinez is on the list for Aston Villa. There's nothing he did for Villa that will make him a Ballon d'Or nominee. His football for Villa, it was his football for his international club, international team, sorry.
If this is what the criteria is of what you do for your international club, and then what you do for your league club, then why on earth isn't it just Julian Alvarez then?
That's a good point.
Because he won the World Cup with Argentina and won all the accolades that Haaland won for Man City. So why don't we just call him then the Ballon d'Or winner? No. People will look at that and go, he didn't score as many goals, or he didn't do this, or he didn't do that. At the end of the day, I think if Haaland doesn't win it, he should do a Lewandowski and never turn up again. Because when Lewandowski had his incredible season where he blatantly should have won the thing, again, if you're basing it purely on the achievements of the individual in football, because like I said, one season, it's what you do domestically and in Europe that matters. Then the next, it's what you do in the World Cup, based on the person. Like that, like, give him a Hall of Fame award, fine. Give him an International Footballer of the Year award, great. Best player of the World Cup, fine. Whatever you want to do. Dress him up and give him all that sort of stuff. Give him all the accolades that he so richly deserves, because I do believe that Messi is one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player that's ever existed.
Sure.
But last season, one man alone, defied odds, broke records, and smashed it. And anyone also that says that, he didn't turn up in finals and all that sort of stuff, I'm sorry, he turned up in every single part of the league, every part of the cup, every part. Just because he may not have scored goals in the very last game. Sorry, I don't particularly care or buy that nonsense. He still is a contributing factor. He is a contributing factor. If it isn't for Haaland being on the pitch, Rodri, for example, doesn't get space to score the goal that he scored against Inter Milan to bring the Champions League back. If it isn't for him, Manchester United wouldn't have given space to Gundogan to do what he did during the game, because people in those teams fixate and focus on Haaland so much. He's that good a player. He's that much of a problem for every football team. And like I said, I swear down, it should be and always will be, in my opinion, Erling Haaland is the Ballon d'Or winner for this year. And if it's anyone else, it proves the point that this is merely a popularity contest for the establishment of football, who they like. They want to have their Messis and Ronaldos until they retire, and then they'll bring two other bods in, who apparently was supposed to be Haaland and Mbappe, but once those two go, that seems to be the only time.
No, I think you're right there. It's definitely seeming to be a popularity contest. And while ever it is a popularity contest, these conversations will pop up, and some people will feel aggrieved by the end result. And I hear what you're saying.
I'm one of them.
I'm probably not as vociferous on the opinion that Haaland should win it over everyone else. Clearly, I think he should win it. There's been a number of players on this list that have done extremely well. I don't think he's a runaway winner. I think he is the winner, though. And I know that's where we differ on this. You're more of an opinion that it's a runaway winner. Yeah,
it's a no-brainer in my head.
Yeah.
But on that bombshell, we'll agree to disagree.
I know, right?
Look at that. Football Twitter. Look what we just did.
You can disagree amicably here. Yeah.
You can. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, taking part. Please follow us on social medias at Do You Know The Score. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok and all the social media apps. Let people know that we're around. Share it. If there's a rating thing, please give it the maximum 5 stars because it's brilliant. Help us become millionaires on YouTube. We've seen children from a generation below us just do it by playing video games and doing this. Help us old men. All right, we've got children and families to feed. Help us.
Yeah, please do subscribe so that you know and you get the notifications of when the next episode comes out, and just share it with everyone you know. Please do so.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.